we have to start off the show like every show that covers sports. We have to talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
They have been rather inactive in free agency. They just signed Eric Kendricks. He was going to go to the San Francisco 49ers, ended up signing with the Dallas Cowboys. Other than that, though, the Cowboys really haven't been active. This is day 3 of free agency, and they made their first move. They lost guys like Tony Pollard, Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong, and Dante Fowler. So far, what do you think of the Cowboys offseason?
I think the biggest thing with the Dallas Cowboys has always been last year I ripped them because I said that the Brandon Cooks is not winning a Super Bowl. Brandon Cooks is not winning playoff games. That's just not who he is. He's been shipped off by numerous teams before. It was Stephon Gilmore, and I was like, guys, this is not winning a championship. You win through building in the draft. I didn't hate the signings, but the notion that some Cowboys fans, which wasn't everyone, was, oh, this is what's going to take us to the next tier. And ultimately, Cowboys unfortunately took a step back. Cowboys fans need to understand, along with every casual fan, and I don't say that degradingly, I say that as they don't follow sports like we do. Building through free agency has always been fool's gold. You look at the Patriots a couple of years back and spent a ton of money, have not done anything with those players since, whether it was Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Mills, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, who's the only guy still on that team at this point. The Jaguars last year didn't make the playoffs. I think it's kind of mature of the Cowboys for save the money for the players later on. They got a Micah Parsons extension coming up soon, a Dak Prescott extension coming up soon. Those are things you need to save your money for. And I guarantee if you polled Cowboys fans, they'd rather have Micah Parsons than X, Y, Z. Even if it was Christian Wilkins, they couldn't afford him. But even if it was Christian Wilkins, like, that's just not going to work. I mean, do you think I'm crazy here? You're the massive Cowboys fan. And I don't mean it in a bad way.
Yeah,
I genuinely respect what you do and how you cover the Cowboys, but I don't, picking up Eric Kendricks is exactly the right piece. A smart veteran guy in the middle that's going to replace Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I know there's a lot of Cowboys fans that are upset about how the Cowboys have handled themselves so far this offseason. And, my opinion is very in line with what you're saying right now. This is a team that drafts very well. I mean, you talk about, I can't even name how many all pros they've drafted since 2020. I mean, just off the top of my head, they got, in the 2022 draft, they drafted 2 all pros, Tyler Smith and Deron Bland, along with Jake Ferguson, who's turning out to be a really nice player for them. 2021, Micah Parsons. 2020, CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs. This team hits in the draft, and that's where a lot of their talent is going to come from. The problem that I had with the way that the Cowboys have built their team so far this offseason is, okay, being more inactive in free agency is fine if you draft well, but the problem was that 2023 draft class for the Cowboys just wasn't good enough to where in previous years, the Cowboys back in 2022 lost Amari Cooper, but they were a better team the year after because their drafts were so damn good during that time. And they had young talent that, was able to not replace Amari Cooper, but they were able to be better in different areas of the field that helped them win football games. So, them missing on the 2023 draft class to the extent that they did, to where I would say that they probably got the least production out of their draft class than any other team in football. So, to me, I would have preferred if the Cowboys would have been more active in free agency to offset some of the mistakes that they made in that draft. But ultimately, if the Cowboys come back and have a draft class similar to what they did in 2022, this is a team that, I mean, they could still be a really damn good football team, because I don't think any of us dispute that the Cowboys are going to win a bunch of regular season games next year. No doubt about it. It's not like they lost. They're not losing big players. They still have CeeDee. They still have Micah. They still have their quarterback. They still have all these pieces, but they're going to have to find some talent in the draft, again, to offset their inactivity in free agency. And I'm confident that the Cowboys are going to be able to do that this draft because, we'll talk about the draft in later weeks. This is a deep draft, man, especially with first round talent. So I'm not freaking out too much. I wish they would have restructured some contracts. And I do want them to extend Dak and CD just because, and Mike as well, ultimately because they're going to end up re-signing them and extending them anyway. So get them at the price they're at right now so they don't drive it up on you and end up, taking you to the bank even more.
Man, why? I'll never understand that. Why do owners, Jerry Jones, there's no reason for this. But if you're going to pay someone, do it early. This is not a Kyler Murray. This is not a rookie contract deal where you're not sure if he's the guy. You want to wait another year. You want to make sure Jordan Love aspect. But why don't they? I never understand why these guys don't get paid earlier. Micah Parsons, guess what? I don't know who the biggest edge rusher that's coming up next that's going to need a big deal. He's going to get a big one. He'll get paid more than Micah if Micah gets paid now. And that's all the game is. You know what Micah is. Whether it's CeeDee Lamb, too. You really want to pay CeeDee Lamb after Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson get their deals? I get this stuff happens later in the summer, but I'm always for get it done earlier, especially with guys like Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. But here's what I'll ask you really quickly before, we put a bow on just about everything with the Dallas Cowboys, because there isn't a ton to talk about with the Cowboys. Is what are they missing that free agency could have helped? Like, I know they need another corner. Trayvon Diggs is going to be back next year. He's coming back from a torn ACL, torn Achilles, one of those really bad injuries, lower leg injuries. I get it. They're going to need a corner. Who is the corner in this free agency draft that was going to change anything? Or a linebacker. Leighton Vander Esch is gone. Love what they did getting in Eric Kendricks, a smart veteran. I just don't. Another wide receiver, I believe that they'll still do that, but the prices right now are just a little high. And I don't know if you've noticed, there's a surplus of wide receivers in the market right now. So, am I missing something? I know they need a tackle. Jonah Williams is off the board now. I'll stop rambling there, but what is it that they actually need that free agency could have fixed?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, which to me is the reason why I'm not as upset as a lot of Cowboys fans are because, now here's the thing, right? They did decide to not sign Zach Moss, and Zach Moss got signed for like $4
Yeah.
million. So something like that, I look at and I'm just like, well, I wish you would have went and signed the guy. But ultimately, Zach Moss is not going to be the difference between them winning a Super Bowl or not. I wish they would have been more aggressive in pursuing a linebacker. Now, granted, Eric Kendricks is still a nice player. He's still fine, but I think that there were better guys out there that the Cowboys could have brought onto their roster. And I'm going to be honest with you. If Tyron Smith is still not signed, we're going on to day 4 of free agency. This guy is an all-pro left tackle. But I think what teams are looking at is the fact that he hasn't been available all too often over the past few years. And I'm wondering if the Cowboys, if that's going to work in the Cowboys' favor and they go re-sign Tyron Smith. If they end up this free agency period re-signing Tyron Smith, Stephon Gilmore, bringing in Eric Kendricks, and they'll bring in a few more guys. If they hit in the draft, this is a team that's going to be up there in the NFC.
Love that. Love that. If they could bring back Tyron, I don't know how they're going to do that. Tackle's such a premium position, and he's really good. Tyron Smith is an all-pro level left tackle. Really, you could stick him anywhere. He's that good. But left tackle over the past decade of his career, or however long he's been in. But it's just the injuries. It's almost like you've had to basically just X out a couple of games a year for Tyron Smith. And I'm still kind of shocked they let him go. I understand there's cap casualties every year, but Jerry, here's the thing about the cap is people think it's just a finite, this is how much money you can spend. If you have a rich owner, you can do whatever it is you want to do with the cap. Signing bonuses, you can restructure, you can front load contracts. That's what that's what Brett Veach is doing. That's what every good owner, sorry, not Brett Veach, but the Hunt family's doing. That's just, if you have a rich owner, you can do that. I'll never understand Jerry Jones, who is, I don't hate to sound insensitive, 1 billion years old. We're not all going to live forever. I don't understand why he doesn't put a little bit more money into this thing, because the cap is just a facade. It's just there to make you feel better. The Arizona Cardinals, newsflash, don't have as much money to spend as the Los Angeles Rams. It's not as bad as baseball, as, like the Phillies and Diamondbacks, caps are going to be this year. Just going to be different, or however much their, payrolls are going to be. It's just something to make you feel better. You got a rich owner, you can make things happen. And I'm a little surprised, that Jerry Jones hasn't lit that fire underneath everyone and just started spending money, because you can't take it with you when you die. But that's my 2 cents on the situation.
Yeah, and to put a bow on it, one thing that I will say, because I know the audience that we're trying to attract is greater than just the Cowboys fan base. One person that I don't think is getting enough blame for the way things have gone in previous years when it comes to roster building and being a little more active when it comes to trades and trying to fix some of the holes in their team mid-season, things like that. It's Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones doesn't get enough blame. He's the general manager. It's not Jerry. Jerry's not the general manager of that football team. That is being ran by Stephen Jones. Jerry Jones is just the face of the team. He's the guy that everybody throws dirt at, and when the team doesn't get to where it's supposed to be, it's all Jerry Jones, it's Mike McCarthy, and it's Dak Prescott. Those are the guys that are the reason why the Cowboys aren't where they're supposed to be. It is Stephen Jones who is at the core of that problem, and I don't think enough people talk about it, because I don't think that it's going to bring in the type of headlines that going after a guy like Jerry Jones would do. But it's Stephen Jones that people need to pay attention to.
I love Stephen Jones, the talent evaluator in draft wise. I'll never forget the story where they basically had to lock out Jerry Jones from taking Johnny Manziel in the draft because was it Zach
Martin.
Zach Martin. I combined Quentin Nelson and Zach Martin together, just so you know. But it basically had to lock him out so they could take Zach Martin, the all pro level guard. I agree with you though. The deal making is not there, and the Cowboys, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what they do with Dak Prescott. Again, that's a conversation for another day. I assume that they're not going to get a deal done. I think they're just going to wait and ride it out this season and see if they want to do Dak or not next year. But the Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb thing's got to get fixed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about Dak's extension. I think it gets done probably sometime.
You do think it gets done?
I think sometime they're talking about in July-ish, because here's the thing, right?
That's where they always get done. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we talked about it before the season. Dak keeps the Cowboys relevant. He's especially in the regular season, one of the best quarterbacks in football during the regular season. Now he has to bring that level of play to the postseason. Like, no doubt about it. Like, that's a very fair critique of Dak Prescott. But he keeps the team relevant. Jerry wants to be relevant. He doesn't want to rebuild. He doesn't want to move on to a new quarterback who probably won't be as good as Dak Prescott. And, with Dak Prescott, they're going to win double-digit games. As a matter of fact, over the last 3 years, 36 wins. It's hard to dispute that they're doing something wrong from that perspective. It's just about how can they take that next step.
No, I agree with you. In all that. But yeah, the Dallas Cowboys I'm sure we'll be talking about them a ton over the course and length of this, which I'm just excited for. Cowboys fans are going to love me. So